Hello, sis. Have you wondered what would happen if you die here in Panama or anywhere else in the world where you retired to? What would happen to your body? Who would take care of your possessions? Would you want your body to be sent back home? And if so, how do you do that? If you've ever wondered what ifs, what would happen, and you have questions, well, we have the answers. Today, I interview a local attorney here in Panama, and she's spilling the tea as to what each of us needs to do to prepare, to plan for the what ifs. So I'm asking you to sit tight and keep watching. Welcome back to Single Women Retiring Abroad. Today's topic is a little bit heavy. I titled the topic, What Happens If You Die in Panama? You know, nobody escapes death. And because we are retired, we definitely need to start thinking about it. So today I would like to introduce my guest, Miss Giovanna Bernal, como se dice en español. And she is my local attorney here in Panama. And we were talking about this topic, and then she was kind enough to send me a lot of answers. So I thought maybe we could start by answering some of the questions that I attached to the topics that she addressed for me. So before we do that, Giovanna, can you take a second or two and let them know who you are, your practice, and what kind of law you practice in Panama?
Okay, great, Maggie. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'll be very happy to answer the questions that your viewers need to know. And yes, I'm an attorney, Panama attorney, also a CPA, and we specialize mostly immigration. We also set up companies, businesses. We assist on when someone is buying a property and the asset protection and succession planning of that part. That is some of the main things we do here. Also accounting and taxes.
Okay. So, and I know we're going to talk about some of the topics in terms of estate planning. So you could let us know whether that falls under your practice or whether you refer us to somebody else. Before we go any further, let me introduce myself now. My name is Maggie Lazar. I'm a retired nurse practitioner, and I have been retired in Panama now for about 1.5 years and absolutely loving it. So we created Single Women Retiring Abroad because we want to provide the support that people like myself, I'm single, I'm retired, and I have adopted a new country. And the goal is to live here for years to come. And as you know, with the progress in aging, if I'm 65, I could live to be 80, 90, 100. So we're trying to create a life for us here with all the support that we need, with the assistance of people like Giovanna. What I'd like to start by doing is just talk about when somebody comes to Panama as a senior, we want to establish like a physician, get healthcare, medical setup before we start thinking about what happens if I die, right? So you get your physician, and I tell people, make sure wherever you're moving to, you're close to a hospital and to healthcare because that is part of the due diligence. And then last video, I address the legal prep you need to do before you come to Panama. Meaning you need to have your will done, you need to have your living will, and establish a trust. And I dispel some myths that people may have that if I have a will, everything is taken care of. And we know that's not the case, you know. Things can get tied up in probate, so you have to do a trust that designates someone and an alternate to manage your affairs. Now, in talking to Giovanna, it came to the fore that we need to do the same thing here. Right, Giovanna?
Yes, that's very important. The same as in the US and any other country. If you have a state and you are living in another country, it's important that you also start your succession planning and your asset planning. Yeah, that's part of it. And at our firm, we help setting up private foundations that work similar to a trust, but there are also banks and firms that also have the license to set up Panamanian trusts or wills.
All right, so somebody can come to your office and then they say, okay, I want to get my paperwork in order. I want to get the will. I want to get the living will. Are you familiar with that in Panama?
A living will is.
It works like what we were talking about with the do not resuscitate. A living will is more of the medical part that says, if I become incapacitated, I designate someone who could be a family member or not to make decisions for me based on what my wishes are. Do we have something similar in Panama?
Yes, we have a process. It is a judicial process that is done at court, where usually the family members, or if not a family, someone takes care, yes, of making the decisions of someone that is sick and is very sick or not able to move or make decisions, right? Name. Yes.
So it's a legal process. You'd have to go to court for that, which is a little bit different than what we do in the state. In the state, every state has the rules that you can go. You don't even have to have an attorney. In fact, like in Florida, you can just download the form and you say, in case, I'm in a coma and I can't make a decision, I can't speak, this is what I would like done. So maybe I need to do a little bit more research in that and see if that's the case. Because if somebody ends up at Hospital Nacional and they're ill, so they probably will want to do everything for them, right?
Exactly.
To keep them alive.
We have something that is called power of attorney, simple power of attorney or general power of attorney.
Okay.
With simple power of attorney, you can appoint anyone to act on your behalf in a certain thing. Or if with a general power of attorney, there is a very long list of things someone can do on your behalf. So that works in case you want to give power to someone else.
But does that include medical decisions?
If you include that in the power of attorney, yes. The interdiction process, which is the judicial, is more when someone is very sick.
Okay. So that's kind of what we need to know. That's what we need to do if we wanted to have a living will, something similar. Okay. Well, let's go to the questions. So now you have your healthcare, you have your doctor, you've had your documents taken care of. And of course, in those documents, you designate someone, right? But as we go through the questions, you're going to see what ifs. I have a lot of what ifs, right? Because if you're here alone, you don't have family, things can get a little bit difficult. The first thing that we addressed was disposition of personal belongings. One of the things I'm going to be teaching the ladies to do is to have like an emergency document, like a folder of some sort where you keep your personal legal documents, right? And then like something like this. And then you would put a copy of all the paperwork we went to Giovanna to have done. You keep a copy in here so that they have the information about who you designated to make decisions for you. So that's one thing. So what if I die here in this apartment and then I have all my stuff? So what happens to your belongings?
Okay, that's a very good question. Personal belongings, as long as any assets that someone owns that has passed away, are handled to the heirs. Okay. And we have Panama succession laws, and the heirs will have to open a probate process in Panama and start usually it's a surviving spouse or children, parents, siblings, and then it goes until the further family or far family members like cousins. And yes, if there is no family members, then it will go to the government, to the municipality of the province.
Well, at least they can decide who they give it to, right? Like a charity of some sort.
Yes, if there is no one appointed, because someone can issue a will before that and plan ahead, right? So better to get that in written.
Now, if somebody like us, we don't have family here, can we designate like a friend to do that? Is that legal in Panama?
Yes, it can be mentioned and written in a will,
Okay.
and so it
Yeah,
can be.
because sometimes some people don't have children, or we've used neighbors or a cousin or somebody to do
Yes.
that.
In
It's
Panama,
possible.
we don't have forced heirship rules, and you can appoint anyone, and you can even leave your belongings to anyone, even a friend or your dog or anyone.
Okay, good. And I guess the number two question, the same thing would apply to your property. Let's say you own an apartment here or a house, and then you have someone designated in your will to do that, right? To inherit your property. Now, how long would that probate going to the court take? Is that a long process? Because it can be tedious in the US.
Yes, in Panama as well. It's not a very fast process. It can take at least 1 year. It can take
Okay.
less because we have around 17 more judge in Panama, judges for this type of cases. And so it depends. Sometimes they're slow or fast, but yes, it's very long. It's better to plan. If you give a will, it goes to probate. If you don't issue a will, it also goes to probate. The best is to issue a foundation of private interest or a trust.
Okay, so the same thing would apply if you have a trust or a foundation, then you avoid probate, right?
If you have a foundation, there's no need to go to probate. It goes
Okay,
automatically to beneficiaries.
okay. That's the same thing in the US. Okay, good.
Mhm.
So the same thing with your property. If you have somebody you designated or there's a trust, then they can start the process. But if there is nobody, then it will go to the courts again and be given to the municipalities, right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Now, the big question that we wanted to address based on what had happened to one particular unfortunate person who came to visit Panama is once you die, what happens to your body? And I know you sent me contact from one cremation company. Yesterday, I went and met with a representative of a local company, and they have offices here in the city and also in David. And she really went over, and I'm going to go over with the ladies because, all this information is just to let our people who are moving here or who are here know what the process is. And she talked about a simple cremation versus the funeral, and they help also with repatriating the body to the US if that's what you want, right? So that's the same thing you were going to tell me. You have to go to the doctor has to give a death certificate. You have to have like a permission to move the body or something, and then go to tribunal and get the death certificate. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly, exactly. It is important, well, that the person that will take care of that process, family members or someone that is designated to do that, contact funeral home so they can start the process and presenting all the necessary information to including the death certificate to start the process of repatriating the body to the country of origin.
Right. And it was really nice to know that somebody who understands the process. You might have to pay a little bit extra here and there, but you can also prepay, which is, we do that in the state as well. You can buy a cremation type of plan so that they know, again, in your emergency packet that you want to be cremated and that you already have things set up with the company. That way, your loved one will have the information, and I think it's prudent for everybody to do that. Um, Bank accounts. What do you recommend that expats do if they have a bank account here?
Okay, great. Yes, I highly recommend that if you have a bank account, you ask your bank if you can list beneficiaries. Most banks let you do that. So it means that if you list who are your beneficiaries, those beneficiaries don't need to go to probate because the bank will have the information. Basically, they have to show that their IDs in order to receive the funds directly. That would be my best advice. If not, it goes to probate. If there is no foundation or nothing in written, it goes to probate.
And just because you mentioned foundation a couple of times, is it something that anybody can set up just to make sure that at their death that there's an entity? Is that the same thing as a trust?
It's similar, but it's I would say easier to register, to obtain. Any attorney in Panama can set up a foundation, and it's like an entity type, like a company, with the benefit of, besides asset protection, the benefit is that you can list who are your beneficiaries without going to probate. So this is similar to a trust, but in Panama we have trust, but yeah.
So that's what we probably should be doing, is just establish a foundation.
Yes, if you have just a bank account, for example, I would recommend you not to set up a foundation because it's just a bank account. You can list beneficiaries. But if you're gonna buy real estate and you have more assets in Panama, it's better to have everything in one place.
Got it. So not just with the bank account, but if you have property and like business and stuff, just a foundation. Got it. Okay. Now with the bank and the beneficiary that you're going to add to your account, can it be a non-family member? For those who don't have kids, could be anybody, right?
Yes, it could be anybody. It doesn't matter.
Okay, good. Another thing we want to let people know is not in terms of the body and repatriating the body. That was the assumption a lot of time, that if they call the embassy is going to make all these preparations for them. And that is not the case, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Someone going to do the process, and like a family member or with a birth certificate, or if it's single, with a document.
Get your will, get your beneficiary set up, or get set up with a funeral home for your cremation or whatever. And then they will help you if you want your body to go back home. Okay. And I understand it can be pretty pricey. I haven't looked into that, but apparently it's pretty pricey to get the body back to the US.
Oh, wow.
Do you know?
No, not really. I'm not familiar with the cost either.
Yeah, but somebody said it could be pretty pricey. Well, I don't really want that, but somebody might want their bodies taken back home. What if, I have a lot of what ifs. What if there's no will? There is no arrangements made with the funeral home, and this person dies, and what happens?
Okay, if there is no claims of anybody on the body, the government will take care. And what they do is like a basic funeral, or they take care of the expenses on the process. And if no one ever comes, they will take care of that process of to bury the body.
And they'll bury the body somewhere in the general cemetery, and
exactly.
Yeah. And that happens at home too when they don't have anybody to claim. Okay. Can you think of anything else before we go to the questions, if time permits? I think we're doing good. It's we have a few more minutes. Can you think of anything else? Okay.
No, we're good, I think.
All right. The first question I had is, how can we create a legal document? I think you answered that. We can come to your office. If we have property and other things, we create that foundation. And the will, does your office help with that, or another?
It is done by a notary. What we can do is that we guide someone that is interested in executing a will and signing a will, because it cannot be done by a lawyer like in a written paper. It has to be done in the notary's paper and before a notary in person. That's very important.
Okay.
And if you don't speak Spanish, you will need the assistance of 2 translators as well.
2?
Yes, in my experience, 2. Maybe another notary will request 1, but the ones that we have help with, they request 2. Yes.
Okay. Do you have, I know you don't have to give me any exact numbers, but do you know approximately how much that would cost?
Yes.
A simple will?
For a simple will, like universal, when you mention like all my assets will go to this person or something like easy, not too complicated, can cost starting 150 to the $200, 250, but then you
Okay.
have to add the cost of the translator.
Right. Well, that's not bad.
Mhm.
What about a general idea for for the foundation? Let's say I have a house and I have my account and
Mhm.
other things.
Yes, the foundation cost is around 1,500, plus the cost of the regulations, which can be around at least $500, and then there is an annual fee because it's like a company, like an entity that needs to be active and there are taxes to be paid to the authorities. A tax government fee of $400, and the cost of the registered agent that starts from 250 a year.
So it can add up, huh?
Yes, every
Can
year.
add
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's good. I mean, if somebody has assets and property, they need to just know that they're going to pay a little bit of money to get set that up.
Mhm.
Okay, the other question I had was the do not resuscitate. I think, like I said, I'm going to ask a medical person that question. My third question was, is probate a concern here in Panama? And it sounds like if you don't have a beneficiary, it automatically goes to probate, like in the States. Okay,
Exactly.
and then you said it might last like about a year or maybe less if we're lucky.
Exactly. At least a year, I think. In our experience, we have done some recently, like a bank account or a properties involved, and it didn't take less than a year.
Okay. Um, Now, a question that is unrelated to the next two questions are unrelated to if you die in Panama. If you get robbed, like yours truly was robbed last year, did I do the right thing by going to the police station and do the report and then take a copy of that to the bank and other places? Is that the only thing you need to do if you get robbed?
Yes, if you lose your ID card, your residency card, yes, and anything that if you got stolen at your house or anywhere, I highly recommend you, yes, to go to the police, and you can give them a report of what happened. They will write down everything. And that's very important because then you will have something in written, and also to help you obtain your ID, your documents back again. That's very
Yes, they
important.
do ask for it if you go get your cedula and stuff. That's good. So if somebody breaks into your house, same thing. You know, you want to go make a
Yes,
report. Okay,
yes,
that's good.
exactly. That's very important. Just go to the nearest
Yeah.
police and do the report.
Okay. I have, I belong to a few Facebook groups like you, and people sometimes mention that a landlord can decide not to give them their deposit back. Do you know what instances where they would do that?
Oh, okay. Yes, that can be a problem. The rental agreements, they have a clause that says that if everything is good in the apartment, you didn't damage in purpose, and it looks pretty safe as you receive it, they should give you their deposit back. The thing is that sometimes the landlords want to keep it for the last month or for maybe some problems because the tenant is asking for to fixes on the apartment, and then um, there might be a conflict, right? But
Mhm.
technically, this deposit, you have to see your rental agreement always and make sure that it says that it's only as a warranty to cover damages, because that is the purpose.
That's true. That's true. And especially because they don't even check your credit report here in Panama.
No,
See,
no.
in the States, they do. You have to get a background checks and all that before they will even rent you. So that's good. But at the same time, we want to be good tenants, and take care of people's property. I didn't have any trouble getting my deposit when I rented last year, so that's not a problem. One good question I want to ask you before we let you go is in terms of, I know totally unrelated, I know you do a lot of pensionado visa um, stuff for expats. What are some other sources of income that Migracion will accept outside of a social security or a pension?
Okay, that's a very good question. Besides Social Security and pension, because pension can be from VA, from the
Mhm.
government or from the state, from the city, from education, some any governmental institution, the pension is accepted, and also disabilities are also accepted. If the disability is not for a lifetime, and someone can prove that after that there is like an old age retirement, that also works. And also private pensions are accepted, or private benefits from insurance, trust, bank, and an investment regulated company. Those type
Mhm.
of benefits for life, at least
Mhm.
$1,000 are also accepted.
Okay, because I know people would say, "Well, I have a 401k." We know that's not accepted.
Mhm.
Annuities, things
Annuities,
are
yes,
accepted.
yes, if they are for life.
Okay, good, good. All right. So thank you so much, Giovanna. To recap, if you die in Panama, the best thing to do is to make sure you draft a will. You go to Giovanna, and she's going to guide you to get a simple will. $200, $300. I think most of us can afford that, and I think it's prudent for all of us to do that. And then if we have multiple accounts, we want to protect those. If we have property, we want to put everything into a foundation, even though it's going to cost us a little bit, but I think it's a prudent thing to do. But we still keep our paperwork from the state that we did before. We don't change those, right? Just we're going to have two sets, correct? We're going to have some here in Panama and some at home.
Yes, what most people do is that if they have someone back home or back to the country of origin, they give a copy to a lawyer or to a friend they trust, or someone that can keep a copy of their where they live, the things, in
Mhm.
the will, the will or the foundation's regulations.
There you go. So a will foundation here and whatever you did at home. And
Mhm.
if you die, you want to be sure you have beneficiary who can have access to your document and your stuff, your bank information and all that, so that that doesn't go to probate and they can have access. Like for me, my
Exactly.
daughter is on my trust. She is my designated person, and my sister is the alternate. It's always recommended you have a backup in case something happens to the original,
Mhm.
right? And then for your body, you need to decide ahead of time whether you want to be cremated or you want to have a funeral. I know it's kind of morbid, it's sad, but it happens.
Mhm.
Um, that if we want our body, we want to be buried here or we want to be buried over there. So I will have some people from those funeral companies come and talk to the group, because sometimes we're not going to address every question they may have. So people need to really be comfortable. I'm a nurse. I can talk about all kinds of things and it doesn't bother me. But some people may say, "Oh my God, it's so morbid." No, it's not. Any one of us can drop dead at any time. So is there anything else, Giovanna, you think we as expats, single, older people should be concerned about here?
I think it's important to plan. This is true what you mentioned, because even not just the old expats, every expat should plan if they live abroad, because you never know, like something can happen to us. And we have
Yeah.
family, we need to plan our assets, what we have made in our past. So I recommend really to plan by setting a will or the foundation, or just a power of attorney to someone, because people can get sick. I've seen cases where someone get really sick and they cannot get their pension. I had a case of a lady that she cannot move from her bed, and someone like a taxi driver needs to pick up the money, come back, and she doesn't have any family here. Or so it's important to maybe give a power of attorney to someone to,
So
to
that's
go to
the third document we need to consider having.
power of attorney.
The will, power of attorney, and then maybe the foundation. Okay, that's good
Yes.
because I want to be sure I do that.
Mhm.
Do you want to give us your number? I'm going to put it in the description, but just give them your phone number, and then I'll put your email contact, because everybody knows that you do the pensionado visa. We know that. But we want people to come to you, of course, if they also have questions about the wills and the power of attorney and all of that. And of course, refer all their friends to you.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. Yes, my phone is country code Panama is 507 and then 63226180. And my
Okay.
email can be contact@primesls.com.
At Prime
SLS.
SLS, okay, .com.
Mhm.
Okay. I would also put it in the description so that if they want to have it, if you have any more questions and they want to contact you. Giovanna, thank you so much. I know you're a busy, busy woman, so I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Yes,
All
my
right.
pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Maggie.
Thank you so much. And of course, we're doing the Etnia Negra. This is the month in Panama. Everybody's wearing African attire. I saw your little girl wearing hers. That's so cute.
Yes, yes, I know. You will see her with the Congo pollera soon.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. And you have a great day. I know you have an appointment. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.